The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.
Hello and welcome to an extremely upbeat edition of the Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland on this glorious Monday, the 16th of October 2023, the day after Scotland qualified for Euro 2024 without kicking a ball. I'm Liam McLeod. Remember to subscribe at BBC Sounds or at bbc.co.uk/Sports Scotland. And it's thanks to Barcelona's Gavi that the nation is celebrating today. He scored the only goal for Spain in their 1-0 win in Oslo, then ensured that Norway cannot finish in the top two of qualifying Group A and seal their own and Scotland's qualifications for the finals in Germany, albeit a draw. I would suggest would have been a preferential outcome if we're being really picky, but we won't be today. We'd have taken this, that's for sure, when the draw was made around about a year ago. I'm in the northeastern French city of Lille ahead of the friendly against France here on Tuesday evening. You might hear some water behind us. That's because we're sitting here in the square in Lille and there's a fountain behind us, which is very nice, adding to the atmosphere. And I think we found it before the Tartan Army. You don't see too many of them lurking around here as yet. I'm sure they'll be assembling shortly. There's a few in the bars over in the corner there. As Steven Thompson, the former Scotland striker, is pointing out to me just now, what a day this is, Tomo.
For me, it was never in doubt, given the start we had to the campaign. It was just a matter of time, really. But it's lovely to have it done and dusted with 2 games left to go. A situation we've not really found ourselves in previously.
Well, not for a long time, that's for sure. I mean, you've got to go back to the qualification campaign for France 98 to find a time when Scotland actually qualified automatically for a major finals. But, I mean, in this campaign, it's never really felt in doubt, which is very un-Scottish-like. What a job Steve Clarke and the players have done.
They have. I think it's been building for a while. I think this group of players we can recognise have a real togetherness. They absolutely love playing under Steve Clarke. He's built a team that's evolved into a team who are very difficult to play against, very difficult to beat, but who can also carry a threat of their own. We've got a seriously strong squad of players, group of players, competition for places all over the pitch, and they thoroughly deserve this. To be going to back-to-back Euros, I think that's the first time it's been done. It is absolutely sensational, and this group of players deserve all the plaudits that they are going to get and have got.
First time it's been done since they qualified for back-to-back Euros in 92 and 96 is what you meant there, yeah?
Is that right?
First time a manager's done it. Steve Clarke's first manager. That's what you were meaning, was it?
That's what I read.
Yeah.
Good, Liam, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out.
You would pull me up, don't you worry. And you probably will at some point in this podcast.
I'm hoping one of these pigeons lands on top of you shortly. But
well, we'll see about that. Looking at the scenes from some of the bars here last night, what an evening it was for the Scotland supporters. I think from what I gather, and we were in a different part of town, but from what I gather, they had a little monitor in between 2 massive screens that were showing the France Springboks World Cup match, the Rugby World Cup, which is ongoing in this country just now. They had a little TV in the middle of that was showing the Norway-Spain game. You can understand why the locals weren't so keen on that being on the big screen.
I've seen the footage of it. It looked brilliant.
Fabulous, eh?
Yeah, fantastic. It really was. And yes, I suppose Spain were due as a favour after Seville there, so fantastic scenes for the Scotland supporters who always travel in huge numbers. Every time we're away, we see massive groups of them, and there's going to be an invasion into Germany of Scottish supporters. Most or lots have already booked their flights, just accommodation to book, and then you've got to get the golden ticket, which will be probably the hardest part of it. But I'd imagine loads of people will just travel and enjoy the German cities that we end up in anyway.
Just think of the number of selfies that you will be featuring in when that rolls around. Let's hear from a few of the Scotland supporters just now. We caught up with them as they celebrated in the wake of that match in Oslo on Sunday evening.
Germany! Germany! Nerve-wracking, but we got there in the end. At least it's done and dusted now. It was the best thing ever. It was out of our hands. And watching Spain do us a favour for once after last week, I'll take it. I'll let them off for that. I'll let them off for that VAR decision.
Honestly, I am so emotional. It means so much.
It was a bit nerve-wracking, but it's just brilliant to actually see it through.
Obviously brilliant. Shows how far the team's come, considering it's one of the harder groups, and we've done it so comfortably.
Doesn't quite feel as good as last time doing it ourselves, but you take that 7 days a week, right? I booked a flight to Berlin after maybe 3 games in, so yeah, I've got my flight, so I'll easily get the tickets. I'll be fine.
No Scotland, no party.
Right, Tomo, first time Scotland have qualified automatically since 1997, just 26 years ago. Incredible. Gallagher and Jury scored in a 2-0 win over Latvia at Celtic Park. You made your 7th appearance for Dundee United the following week. You came on as a sub.
Oh, really?
Against Motherwell for Shell Olafsson, right? Which
Big
kind
Shell.
of amplifies just how long ago it was that Scotland actually achieved this.
Yeah. We've had such a long period before, obviously, the last qualification, where a whole generation of young Scotland supporters, my son included, had never seen us at a major tournament. I suppose we were a bit spoiled for it before then, so it's just so good to be back and amongst the big boys in the major tournaments. It's brilliant, not just for the younger generation, but for the older generation who had it every single tournament, then had to wait this 20-year gap without it. But you really do feel with this squad of players, and Steve Clarke had said this, that he wants to be a team that regularly qualify for major tournaments. That is the aim, and so far, that is bearing fruit, which is it's brilliant, because how many times over the last 20 years have you watched the Euros or the World Cup, and without being there, it's not quite the same, is it?
No, and the last one wasn't quite the same because it was during the pandemic years.
That's right, yeah.
And also you had smaller crowds.
Yeah.
And it was at Hampden.
Yeah, but we were at that game, and Hampden didn't really do it justice, because Hampden is at its best when it's full and absolutely rocking. So the opportunity for that will come again, of course, in 2028.
When you think of all the misery that has gone on in the last 25 years or so, some of these games you were involved in, some of them you weren't. I'm thinking about Belarus, I'm thinking about
Moldova away.
Yeah, and the Faroes away from home. But then there's other games,
there was some good games.
I know that. But there's been some real stinkers down the years, and hammerings. Remember the beating they took in Oslo, in Wales. There was a difficult night there.
Yeah.
And even difficult matches at Hampden against the Belarusians. That's all in the rear view mirror now.
It is, and I think with this group of players, you kind of trust them to get the job done. Previously, in these tricky ties against so-called smaller nations, you would worry. Cyprus being one of them. Tight games, but we went over to Cyprus and very comfortably won. With this group of players, I think there's a trust between the supporters, the players, the management. Everybody's buying into it, and you don't feel as though they've got a slip up in them. I think that they all got on so well together as a group. The camaraderie is just phenomenal. So I think we've reached a point where we can say that we're comfortable, and we can consider ourselves a strong international nation that other teams will fear, which hasn't been the case for a long time.
Well, let's hear from the Scotland manager, the man who has led Scotland to back-to-back European Championship finals appearances, Steve Clarke, who's been speaking to the press ahead of the friendly here in France.
Really proud of my players, delighted for the players. They've put a lot of work in over the last just over 4 years in my reign as head coach, and it's fantastic for them to be at the second major finals after such a long barren spell for Scottish football. The last time we qualified for the Euros, it was through the playoff system. It felt a little bit like sneaking in the back door. This time we can walk straight in the front door with our heads held high, and look forward hopefully to a good tournament next summer. But before that, we have to finish the group properly. We've got 2 competitive games next month, and we want to finish on a high. After, we'll wait on the draw. We'll see what the draw gives us in December, and then from there we'll start to plan for the summer.
Did you allow yourself last night to relax a bit, to celebrate, to reflect on the campaign, the success of it?
Me personally,
yeah.
I never relax. It was good. We all sat together, watched the game. The moment when the final whistle goes and your qualification secured is obviously a good moment. Not quite the same as doing it in a game situation. But we relaxed. We had a good couple of hours together. The boys sang a few songs and they were happy. So hopefully they recover before tomorrow.
Every fan that I've spoken to so far seems to be extra excited about Germany. There seems to be a feeling of just something a bit extra about this tournament coming up, doesn't there?
Yeah, I'm not sure Germany's ready for 5 million Scottish people to turn up, but it seems like that. It seems like everybody you speak to says that they're going to be in Germany next summer. We'll certainly take a big crowd. Obviously we want to go there, we want to be successful in the tournament. What is success for Scotland is probably to be the first Scottish national team to come out of a group stage at a major competition, so that's something that we can aspire to in the future, but lots of steps to take before we get to that.
So Stevie Clarke there, Tomo, he's got Scotland to back-to-back Euros. It was Andy Roxburgh and Craig Brown who got us to 92 and to 96. I guess what he'll want to do now, what he'll target now in Germany next year, is trying to get Scotland out of a group at a major finals for the first time.
Yeah, it's never been done before. We've been close, and then, you know, it's usually glorious failure in typical Scottish tradition when we go to the major tournaments. That is the key, and that's when you were talking about the next two games are important, because there's a chance that we can top the group, which then would mean we'd have an easier seeding come the draw. But again, regardless of who's in our group, I feel we've shown enough against good teams to suggest that we are capable of qualifying from whoever's in our group. Obviously you want it to be a bit more favourable when the draw is made, but I don't think we'll fear anybody, and I think that there's a belief amongst the squad that regardless of who the opposition is, that we would be able to compete and to make it out of a group stage for the first time. That's the next step on the ladder, you know, for Steve Clarke and the Scotland squad, which are so good just now. To get to the major tournament is amazing, but can you for the very first time get out of a group? And I think that's got to be the aim. And once you're out of the group, anything is possible. I'm not about to sit here and say we're going to go and win the Euros, but you look at Wales a few years ago and Iceland and various other things. So
absolutely.
Do you see that pigeon? Missed my head by about 2 feet.
That's like the dragonfly in Oslo.
Yeah,
it was bigger than that pigeon.
You're not joking. So that has to be the next step. I mean, I don't know how Steve Clarke approaches it. Do you start thinking about next summer now, prepare now, or do you just sit back and enjoy what you've achieved, which is phenomenal?
The second Spanish goal last week in Seville has in all likelihood, Stephen, ended the hopes of finishing top of the group, and their positions will be decided by goal difference between those two now rather than the head-to-head. So Spain are already well ahead. I think it's 7 goals better off, and they play the bottom two in their final couple of matches. I mean, looking at the seedings just now as they stand, getting towards the business end of these groups, there's a chance that pot 1, knowing Scotland's luck, had they got in there, they would have ended up with a group featuring England, Italy and the Netherlands, because I think the Dutch are potentially having to rely on the playoffs now to get there, and the playoff winners will all go into pot 4, as Scotland did last time. So it wouldn't have surprised me had that been the outcome. But they are going to miss out on the opportunity to not have to play the likes of France, where we are today, Spain again, Portugal, Turkey, who are having a wonderful campaign. So that's a bit disappointing. But then you've always been in the opinion that, look, it was just about getting there.
I think getting there, yes, 100%, just to be at the tournament, for the supporters, for the players, for the country. But when you're there and when the draw happens, yeah. But I mean, you know, you're mentioning these teams, and I know that England gave us a wee bit of a lesson in the friendly. However, it was a friendly. I think it would be slightly different in major championships. But again, I think we're capable of going against these teams. What we do is we're very difficult to play against, as we proved against Spain last week. So we're difficult to play against. The work rate of the team is phenomenal, and we do carry a threat. I felt as though we didn't against Spain last week enough, but I suppose, you know, we were playing to get the point for qualification, which thankfully we now didn't even need. But these are all things that Steve Clarke will fine-tune between now and then. I feel as though when we're playing against the better teams, yes, we can set up to be difficult to beat, but I think the next step of the evolution of the team is, with that, can you go and then be a real threat at the other end of the pitch? And it's a very difficult thing to do, to get them both right.
It's been a memorable campaign for all kinds of reasons. The turnaround in Oslo, the long old night against the Georgians in Glasgow, that came in in June that almost stretched into a second day. It's been absolutely incredible, and the victory over Spain, obviously, which kind of set Scotland on this course towards
the resistance.
It was good French.
I've been learning since we arrived yesterday.
Excellent, yeah, sounded good there.
Yeah, that was the marquee, if you like, result. Norway away was probably our worst performance in the group, but to get the goals in the fashion that we did was just phenomenal. And you need a wee bit of luck along the way. Not every game is going to go your way in a qualifying campaign, and we got a wee bit of luck there against Norway.
Jack Hendry, of course, was involved and was penalised on Thursday evening in Seville. That Scott McTominay goal, which was ruled out. He's also been speaking to the media in Lille.
Yeah, last night we just watched the Spain and Norway game in camp. Everyone together, coaching staff and players, and obviously enjoyed the result and the end of it, and had a glass of champagne to celebrate, and it's always special to celebrate it with that group. We've got a unique bond, and it's a great achievement for the country, so very proud to manage to achieve that with 2 games remaining. I think the biggest thing the players are thinking about is the fans that will travel out there in the tens of thousands, and how special it is to have their backing. Even on a Thursday night, for example, in Seville, they travelled in their thousands, and that's greatly appreciated from every single person in that squad, and it'll be actually special to experience that in Germany with themselves, and hopefully we can make them extremely proud.
So Georgia and Norway still to play. There's going to be big parties at those 2 games, particularly that one at Hampden. We are here in France ahead of this friendly, which will be a party atmosphere as well for the Scotland supporters, and indeed for the French, who have qualified for the finals, as you would expect.
Yeah,
of course. They made it through on Friday with that fantastic win against the Dutch in Amsterdam. Mbappe scored both goals. The second one is outstanding, as you would expect. Both goals well taken, but the second one in particular. I mean, if we thought Spain was tricky, we're coming up against a team that's contested the last 2 World Cup finals. They won the one in 2018, and obviously they took Argentina to a penalty shootout. They showed incredible resilience in that game. I was watching the highlights of it again and the other day, and you kind of realise just how good a final, how good a match it was.
How
exciting
final, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, it was.
France more than played their part in that, didn't they? And this is going to be an incredibly challenging.
This is as tough as it gets.
This is the most difficult fixture that Steve Clarke's faced.
I would say, without doubt, it doesn't get any harder. France away from home. I played in one of those games, didn't end well.
It did not.
No, it was.
That was Bertie Vogt's first game.
Was it his first game?
First one, yeah.
Yeah, Zidane, etc. were playing. So yeah, I mean, when you look through the French squad, littered with players that play at the highest level, obviously one man stands out, whether he'll play or not, because for them it's a friendly.
Hope he doesn't.
Clearly we've got players missing through injury, but I'd imagine that Steve Clarke will freshen things up. He doesn't often deviate from the players that he likes to pick, but I think this is an opportunity to give some of the fringe players a chance. Aaron Hickey obviously pulling out, I think.
Andy Robertson, Aaron Hickey pulling out this morning. Max Johnston, who
brilliant for him.
Brilliant at Motherwell. He made his move to Sturm Graz in Austria. He's made a handful of sub-appearances. It's a great opportunity for him.
Well, it's a great learning experience for him.
Oh yeah,
looking forward.
But so how many changes are you looking at, do you think, out of the 11 that started in Seville?
I think there'll be a lot. I think it would be a good 5 or 6 changes. I think Greg Taylor might come in at the left back position. I'd like to see Lewis Ferguson start the match, maybe Kenny McLean.
Patterson at right
back. Would he change the goalie, give one of the 2 guys that turn up for every single camp under Steve Clarke and never get on the pitch?
Yeah, but you've got right now 3 of France's all-time top scorers are in this squad and could play.
And they're all capable goalkeepers.
Mbappe, Griezmann and Giroud. I'm not saying they're not capable, but what I'm saying is, do you change it when you're facing that kind of power? Give somebody a debut in that kind of
the likelihood is that we might lose the game anyway, okay, and that's me putting my neck on the line there. So why not change it up and give people a chance? And what an opportunity it would be to test yourself against some of the best players in the world. I think the experience itself will be brilliant for the players, regardless of the result. The experience of testing yourself against a top team will be phenomenal for the players. It's been 3 really tough games. You look at it, you go, England, really tough, gave us a bit of a lesson. Spain away was working really well until obviously the goal. We showed a lot of resilience and defensive qualities. We're going to have to do that again tomorrow night, but I think this is a step up again from what Spain were. I think they've got more speed in their team and more threat. It's going to be tough, and do you know what? I'm not even the slightest bit bothered about the result. We've qualified for the Euros. This is a friendly game. Yes, you want to give a good showing, and you certainly don't want to come away with a 5-0. The likelihood of that happening, is possible. So I just think, generally for this particular game, I wouldn't be getting too carried away if we do lose heavily. But it's been 3 tough games, and 3 games where the players and the manager have learned a lot about what's required to step up to that level. And when we do go to the Euros, if we do pull a team out of similar quality, these 3 games will have been a valuable lesson in terms of what's needed to compete against the very top.
Tomo from the square here in Lille with the fountain behind us. Thank you very much. The Tartan Army beginning to assemble here. Match day -1 here in northeast France. The game on Tuesday evening, France against Scotland, will be live on Sports Sound on BBC Radio Scotland. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff UK time for that one, and we will be live, myself and Stephen, inside the stadium. Highlights and sports scene at 20 to 11 on BBC One Scotland in the evening. And what a magnificent day this is for Scotland, for Steve Clarke and his players. They've qualified for their 4th European Championship finals. That's in Germany next June. We're all looking forward to that. France-Scotland before that, of course, and we'll have another podcast after the game in Lille. And then we'll start building up to the domestic action resuming at the weekend. From us in France, goodbye.
Bonjour.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.